Hey, and welcome to the Blueprints to Buildings podcast. I'm your host, Glen Palmer, and on this show, I interview the movers and shakers in the world of property development and real estate. But before we dive in, a very quick word. This show is brought to you by a new visual technology that is quietly making waves in the property industry. Developers are using it to cut costs, accelerate off-plan sales in a way that sounds almost good to be true. If you're curious, message me directly at Glen Palmer Online or check out the show notes below. So, on today's show, I am joined by Fay Brink. So, she's a Houston based realtor with a deep local roots and a rare blend of market strategy, emotional intelligence, and genuine care for helping families and agents win on purpose and with a plan. Fay, thanks for having you on today's show. Really pleasure to have you on. Welcome, and shall we dive in?
Sure. Thanks for inviting me. Let's go.
You're more
Honor.
than
Thank you.
welcome. So, if you know the show at all, you will know that I asked the same question for starting off with, and that is, if time travel became a reality, you had a chance to go back in time when you first started your career, what advice would the person that you are now tell your younger self?
Um, Gosh, I would tell my younger self just to stop waiting to feel confident before taking action because, confidence doesn't show up first. It shows up after you've done the work a few times and survived it. Early on, I
Yeah.
thought confidence was a personality trait. Like, people were just born that way and the rest of us just had to fake it until we made it. And what I learned is that confidence is really just a side effect of being prepared. And when you
Yeah.
understand your craft, your numbers, your process, and your values, you don't need permission to speak up. You just do it. And
Yeah.
I also would tell myself to calm down because I think like a lot of people, especially in a high performance industry, get anxiety. And everything at the beginning of my career just felt so urgent. Every deal, every conversation, every mistake that I made. Um, Felt like it would be the one that defined me forever. And spoiler alert, it was not. Most things are very fixable, and I had always had a team behind me that I could go to, no matter where I was, that I could go to and ask questions and get, the breadth of their experience to pull from. And if it was a fixable problem, um, those things are the things that teach you the most. The mistakes that you make,
Mm.
they teach you. The failures that I would never say I failed because every opportunity that I had where I made a mistake or made a misstep was something that grounded me and helped me learn. And
Yeah.
finally, I say protect my energy because burnout doesn't come from working too hard. I easily can work 60 to 80 hours a week, and it's super easy to do that in real estate. Like especially in the city. It burning out doesn't come from working too hard. It comes from working hard without any clarity, without any systems, without any boundaries. And once I learned that, everything just got super light. Um, I would tell my younger self that my biggest strength is also about to become my biggest problem. And that was just overthinking. I came from nursing. I'm a perfectionist by nature. Um, I was an artist most of my life, and so that perfectionistic overthinking nature worked really really well for me as a nurse, as an artist. Precision mattered, details mattered, and taking my time mattered. But when I got into real estate, I assumed that I could just apply that same mindset and be fine, and I was so very wrong. Real estate does not reward perfection. It rewards clarity and action. And early on, I was trying to think my way into competence instead of working my way into it. I wanted
Yeah.
every email to be perfect, every conversation to be very polished, every plan to be just fully baked. And before I moved. So meanwhile, the market was like, that's cute. Keep up. Um, I tell progress beats perfection every single time in this business. You don't get better by waiting until you feel ready. You get
Yeah.
better by doing, adjusting, and doing it again smarter. So,
Oh,
overthinking isn't wisdom, and it's usually just fear wearing a nice outfit.
yeah. You know what? I can agree with you on so many levels because I am very much perfectionist as well. And one of the main things that I have realized is that done is better than perfect. You know,
Absolutely.
get it done, get it out there. And again, yes, learn from your mistakes. I fail a lot, but I view failures as learning objectives. I don't see them as failures. I can fail in my eyes, like Thomas Edison, who said that, when he was interviewed about the light bulb, and he said you'd had, 10,000 failures. And he says, I don't view them as failures. I was 10,000 ways to make it work. So,
Right.
yeah, totally agree with you. So, Faye, you work with buyers' families in transition and also ambitious agents. What do you see as the biggest mistakes people make in the Houston market? And how do you actually help them avoid those costly decisions?
Gosh. There's so many. Well, the biggest mistake I see across the board in Houston is people reacting instead of deciding.
Hmm.
Our our market here in Houston is big, fast, and loud. And if you're not careful, it will absolutely rush you into choices that look fine on paper but don't age well in real life.
Yeah.
So for buyers and families in transition, the mistake is usually confusing urgency with pressure. Houston is a sprawl city. It's growing all the time. The area that I moved to when I first got here over 30 years ago um, was almost out in the country, and now it's like swallowed up into the city. And there's even more than 20 miles further out is pushed out even further than that. So like that just
Hmm.
tells you how fast it moves, and it's just continuing to move faster and faster out. There's always another neighborhood, another hot listing, another deal of the day. People either move too fast or because they're afraid they'll miss out, or they freeze because there are too many options and they don't know what to do to filter them. And
Yeah.
both of those reactions are expensive here. It feels like survival of the fittest, but it really requires quick, efficient discernment. And that's what my job is. So for ambitious agents, the mistake is very similar, but it shows up very differently. The chase activity instead of strategy. Agents are doing all the things. They're posting, they're calling, they're touring, they're reacting, they're learning, but without a clear system underneath it. It looks busy, but it's not always effective. And most agents waste a lot of time and energy and end up not doing income producing activities that really will move the needle because they're scary and they're
Mhm.
uncomfortable and they require bravery, but beyond their current capacity. And I was guilty of this too in the beginning. And a lot of agents are. And it's why so many agents fail out in their first 2 years. And it's not just here in Houston, this is nationally. 87% of agents fail out in their first 2 years nationally.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it just becomes this crazy thing where you're spending a lot of money trying to get going in this industry. And if you don't make it happen, you've wasted that time, you've wasted that energy, you've wasted that money, and you can't make it work. And you have to go back to a 9 to 5 job
yeah.
working for somebody else, and you can't be an entrepreneur. Or you
Yeah.
have to start over at something else.
Yeah.
So for my Houston doesn't punish you for being cautious, it punishes you for being unclear. The biggest mistake I see people in Houston doing is reacting emotionally to a market that really requires clear thinking. I tell my clients, my residential buyers, to think about their home purchase like it's a business decision. That doesn't mean it can't be an emotional or meaningful um, decision, but it does mean the numbers, the timing, and even the exit strategy, because most people are not going to stay in their home forever. Most
Mm.
people stay in their home about 7 to 10 years max. Even 5 years here in Houston is pretty much max. Um,
Wow.
Feelings are great, but feelings without a plan are expensive.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't consider the cost of insurance and the cost of taxes and the cost of all those other things. They're just looking at the mortgage payment over time, and taxes can go up and insurance can go up, and that will affect the amount that you overall pay on your monthly mortgage. You want to make sure that you have a comfortable padding and that you have made sure that you will be able to afford your monthly payment.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't. They're like, oh, I'm going to get the maximum amount that my mortgage company says that I can afford on this loan payment. But if you don't know if your income's going to be going up, that's not smart. So
Yeah.
I really have to advise people, like, you need to consider whether or not your job has upward mobility before you get into doing that particular thing. So my job is to slow the process down enough to remove the panic and bring the clarity back in and help people understand where leverage exists. And sometimes waiting is smarter than winning. It's
Yeah.
about outcomes. It's about relationships at the end of the day, not just transactions and bottom lines. And when people understand why a decision works and not just that it works, they move forward with confidence. And those are the decisions that people just don't regret later. And that's what that's what I'm looking for. I don't want people to look back on what I did with them and regret that I didn't advise them better.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's a massive, massive financial, not just financial, but, yeah, like you say, you're going to spend, 5 to 10 years in that property. You're going to need to know that A, you can afford it, B, it's the right place for you. And yeah, it's very emotional. House buying is very emotional. And to be honest, I am not moving house again because it is a nightmare. But
Should
yeah,
be.
a lot of people do, you know. So, from your vantage point in Texas, how is real estate changing right now, particularly around negotiations, timing, and buyer education? And what should people actually be paying closer attention to?
So like what's really changing right now is where that leverage lives. And it's no longer obvious. We're not in a market where the highest price automatically wins.
Hmm.
We're not in one where buyers can casually take their time either. The power has moved into the details. And then this is true not just for buyers, but also for tenants. Negotiation today is much more strategic. It's about terms, timing, and
Yeah,
understanding motivation on both sides, not just the price. So I
yeah,
tell clients all the time, the strongest offer is not always the loudest one, it's the cleanest.
yeah.
There's so
So,
many there's so many strategic tools that I can give to my buyers to get an advantage now that cost shouldn't be prohibitive for most people anymore. I know
yeah,
everybody feels like, we're not making as much money as we used to. I'm not making as much money as I used to necessarily. Um, most middle income people, their dollar doesn't stretch as far. But even so, I wouldn't say that costs should be prohibitive for people to get into a home, um, especially for people looking to get into real estate investing or for lower or middle income folks, as crazy as that might sound. There
hmm,
are tools that we can use in the loan process, in down payment assistance programs, you name it. There's tons of things that we can pull out of our hats, like a magic top hat. We can pull things
hmm,
out of there and
hmm.
find something that we can make it work. But timing has also become very hyper local. Citywide stats are interesting, but they're not always actionable. And one neighborhood can be heating up while another 5 minutes away is quietly softening. If you're
Yeah,
not paying attention at that level, you're either overpaying or you might be missing an opportunity. And buyer education has become non negotiable. The one, man, the one thing is that today's buyers can't afford to rely on headlines or social media takes. The ones who do best understand how to read days on market. They understand price reductions, sellers' behaviors, and financing options and how all of that works together. I
yeah.
always say this market rewards the most prepared person in the room, not the fastest or the most emotional.
Nice.
Once buyers understand that, their decisions get calmer and a lot smarter.
Good.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot to think about there, and a lot to unpack because it's not just oh, that's a nice house, I'm going to go have a look at it and I'm going to go buy it. There's so much more into the psychology behind it, the buyer education, what they need to know. So you clearly value systems, preparation, and pure clarity. And with the digital age now transforming so rapidly, with the invention of tools like digital walkthroughs, virtual tours, then visual storytelling. Is this something that you are currently adopting? And do you think this changes the way buyers understand property? And, from your experience, how does that impact confidence, decision making, and deal velocity?
I'm adopting it. I'm not as much a listing agent, but I do have my I have my listing packet fully prepared, and I know what I would do as a listing agent. Now, I'm adopting it very intentionally. I don't believe technology replaces good guidance, but
Hmm.
it does dramatically improve clarity. And clarity is what most people are really missing when they
Yeah,
feel anxious about buying or selling. Every tool that we as realtors can add to our arsenals is a benefit to our clients when it comes to marketing and understanding the market. We live in a hyper local market for sure, but it's also a global one. And people from all over the world and all over the country look to Houston as the fourth largest city in the United States to move here every single day. Literally hundreds of people a day make that. Digital walkthroughs and virtual tours help people do their emotional processing before they ever step into the house.
yeah,
By the time we're touring in person, they're not asking me, do I even like this? They're asking better questions like, does this work for actually how we live? And that's a huge shift.
yeah,
Does it work for our lifestyle? Does it work for the schools that we want to be in? That, like, they're more focused on the lifestyle of the home. And I will
yeah,
say that though nothing takes the place of seeing and smelling a home in person, getting a true feel for it in the neighborhood that it's in, pictures and videos can tell you a lot, but they can't convey the energy of a home. And
mm,
believe me, that matters. Because if I could
yeah,
tell you the amount of times that the house looks perfect in pictures, but didn't pass the sniff test, or the lighting wasn't right when it was seen in person, and that broke the illusion in the buyer's mind, you'd be
yeah,
astonished.
yeah. I
Well,
mean, yeah, the technology can do so much. For a perfect example, you say that a lot of people are moving from different areas of the country, even overseas. Having that opportunity to go in and have a look at the property, go in, test the finishes, have a look, open the door, see the views, even have a chance to walk down the street and stuff like that is a huge bonus. But like you say, the proof is in the pudding. It's when you get there and you actually walk through the house. That's when the emotion really kicks in, I think. So
right.
Houston is a huge, diverse metro. So what local dynamics trip people up the most? So is it pricing? Is it inventory? Is it zoning? Or is it mindset? And now, how do you navigate those for your clients?
Houston's incredible, but it's not intuitive. And that's where most people get tripped up. And the biggest issue that I see isn't just pricing or inventory, it's mindset.
Hmm.
People assume that Houston operates like one big market, and when in reality it's dozens of little micro hyper local markets, stitched together by freeways and optimism. Two,
I like that.
two, two neighborhoods can be 10 minutes apart and behave like completely different cities. We have, I don't know how many different local little mini cities within Houston.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest issue that pricing, demand, school zone, split history, zoning rules, all of that can shift dramatically in very small radius. If you don't know what you're looking at, it's easy to think that something is a great deal when it's actually just complex.
Mm.
Um, and it's layered of why it might be a great deal. Like, you might just be abutted to something that's making it lower price. Um, Zoning and development also surprises a lot of people. Houston's flexibility is a strength, but it does mean that you need to understand what could be built next to you and not just what's there today. I've seen people fall in love with a view that was basically just on borrowed time. My job is to translate all of that, and you can't always predict what's to come. I help
No.
clients zoom in instead of out and understand the specific pocket that they're buying into, how it behaved historically, how it's likely to evolve, hopefully. And once they understand that, Houston stops feeling overwhelming and starts feeling like it's an opportunity.
Nice. And finally, you talk a lot about legacy, and I can see that you genuinely care. So, when people look back on a property decision years down the line, what do you think separates a good transaction from an absolute blinder of a great decision, life decision?
Oh man, what makes it a good transaction? There's so many things. A good transaction, of course, closes smoothly. A great life decision still feels right years later, even when life doesn't go according to plan. Because when does it ever go according to plan? Um, Most people don't measure a home decision by the price that they paid, although some people definitely do. They measure it by how it unfolded, how their life unfolded inside that home. Did it give them breathing room? Did the house support a growing family, a changing career, or a season that they could not have predicted at the time? I think the difference comes down to intention. A good transaction focuses on the moment, and a great life decision considers the ripple effects, the
Nice.
finances, the flexibility, the resale, the stress level, the quality of life. It asks, and this is all, when I'm doing my initial questioning with clients, I'm asking the questions about all of these things, like what do their finances look like? What are their motivations for getting into a home? What are the things that how does their life look right now and how do they want it to look? That's all important. That all goes into the decision making process of how am I helping them find that home that's going to be the home that they stay in maybe for the next 5 to 7 to 10 years, but also maybe for the next 30, because I don't know whether or not they're going to stay there for the long haul, and they don't either.
Yeah.
They might get a divorce in 5 years. Their spouse might die in 6. Who knows what's going to happen? You don't know what might
Yeah.
affect their ability to stay, or their ability to go, or their need to move whenever.
Yeah.
So I always tell clients, you're not just buying a house, you're buying a chapter in your life. And chapters don't have to be perfect. They just need to make sense in the larger story of your life. And when people look back, I want them to feel peace instead of regret. Even if the
Yeah.
market shifted or life threw them a curveball, that's when I know I got it right. When
Yeah.
clients look back, what they usually remember isn't just the house, it's how the process felt. Did they feel informed? Did they feel protected? Did they feel calm? Did they feel like they had a team behind them that actually cared about the outcome, not just their piece of it? And that's something I'm super intentional about. I don't just represent my clients, I curate their team. From the lender to the title company to inspectors, insurance, repair vendors, appraisers, I work with people I trust to communicate well and efficiently and problem solve and keep things moving without unnecessary drama. Real estate has enough stress on its own. There's so many gears moving in the background. My job is to make it look like it's seamless. And people don't understand. People think, oh, real estate, you're a lot of people don't understand and think realtors don't earn the money that we make. It's extremely, how do I put it? We make it look like it's super easy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the idea that it takes maybe 5 to 10 hours of time to close a house. Like, you don't see all the wheels and cogs that are going in the background to make that transaction go as seamlessly as it went. And you don't know everything that was involved in my education and my uh, n- negotiation training, everything that I've had to learn to make a transaction go as smoothly as it did. And
Yeah.
none of that stops at the closing table either. One of my favorite compliments is when clients call me months or years later because they need a contractor or an insurance referral or help thinking through their next move, because that just tells me that that relationship mattered and not just that transaction.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
so
Faye,
I just want people to walk away happy.
yeah. Well, Faye, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on the show. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. You obviously put a whole load of passion into what you do. You really care about what your clients want, what they need, and you go quite in depth into ways to make them feel, that they're not just another number on the screen. So, well done for that. And thanks for my listeners and viewers as well. Faye, just before we sign off, if listeners and viewers want to get in contact with you, learn about what you do at either Renaissance Premier or Blair Realty Group, what are the best ways for the listeners to do that?
So yeah, I work with Blair Realty Group here, and it's based out of Cypress, Texas, which is on northwest side of Houston. But I work all over the metro area of Houston. But you can get in touch with me. My phone number is 832-723-3025, or you can get in touch with me via email at fay, Fay, Brink, BRINK, at Blair, BLAIRRG.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Faye. And that wraps up today's episode. If you're still wondering about that prop tech thing I mentioned at the start, good. You should be. Drop me a message and I'll show you what the early adopters are up to. You've been listening to the Blueprints to Buildings podcast. I'm your host, Glen Palmer. I was joined today by Fay Brink. Thanks again for listening and watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.